Imagine for a moment. You wake up tomorrow morning and discover that beauty has changed its face. The aesthetic canons you know have vanished like morning dew. What was ugly yesterday has become sublime. What was beautiful is now nothing but ordinary. This unsettling experience, our ancestors lived through it across the ages. For beauty, my friends, is not an absolute truth carved in marble. It is a chameleon that changes color according to eras, cultures, beliefs. Today, I invite you on an extraordinary journey, a voyage through time that will carry us from the banks of the Nile to the mountains of Burma, from Maya temples to Renaissance palaces. Together, we will discover how humanity has shaped, molded, transformed the human body in the name of an ideal of beauty that now seems to us strange, sometimes fascinating, often disturbing. Prepared to meet women with teeth black as ebony, children whose skulls were lengthened toward the sky, young girls with broken, folded feet, not out of gratuitous cruelty, but for the love of beauty, their beauty. Let us begin our odyssey on the banks of the Nile, where Egyptian civilization flourished for more than 3 millennia. Here, beauty was not merely a matter of aesthetics, it was sacred, magical, protective. Kohl. The word immediately evokes the black-rimmed eyes of pharaohs and queens. But did you know that this black powder was not just simple makeup? Egyptians mixed galena, a lead ore, with animal fats to create this substance that they believed protected against evil spirits and eye infections. Ironically, recent studies have shown that this lead, in infinitesimal quantities, actually stimulated the immune system. Had our ancestors, without knowing it, discovered a remedy in their quest for beauty, or were the gods guiding their hands? The women and men of ancient Egypt shaved their heads completely. Imagine those heads smooth as eggs, shining beneath the desert sun. Then they covered their capillary nudity with elaborate wigs braided with gold and precious stones. Real hair was considered impure, animal. Only artificial hair could achieve divine perfection. And Cleopatra. Legend says she bathed in donkey milk to preserve her skin. 300 donkeys were milked each day to fill her tub. Excessive vanity, perhaps, but milk contains lactic acid, a natural exfoliant still used in our modern cosmetics. The Egyptians also used more unsettling mixtures: crocodile dung for beauty masks, hippopotamus fat as anti-wrinkle cream, bat blood to promote hair growth. Each ingredient had its symbolic logic, its connection with the realm of the gods. What strikes us today is this paradoxical blend of sophistication and danger. These pioneers of cosmetics handled lead, mercury, antimony, poisons that beautified as much as they destroyed. But is that not the price humanity has always been willing to pay for beauty?
Let us leave the burning sands of Egypt for the mist-shrouded mountains of ancient China. Here, for nearly 1,000 years, there endured one of the most painful beauty practices humanity has ever known: foot binding. It is said to have begun in the 10th century with Yao Niang, a dancer of the imperial court. She wrapped her feet in silk so she could dance on point, creating the illusion of floating upon a golden lotus. The emperor was so enchanted that the ladies of the court imitated this artificial grace. What had been born as a performance became a prison of flesh and bone. Listen closely to the process, for it reveals how far human beings will go in the name of beauty. A little girl of 4 or 5. Her mother, her grandmother, approach with bandages. First, they fold the 4 small toes beneath the sole. The crack of bones echoes in the silent room. The child screams, but the women continue. It is for her own good, they say, for her future. Day after day, the bandages are tightened. Bones break, reform, break again. Flesh sometimes rots. Toes fall off, and this is considered a blessing, less volume to compress. After years of daily torture, the foot measures no more than 7 or 8 centimeters, a perfect golden lotus. But why? Why inflict such suffering? The answer sheds light on the complexity of beauty in human societies. These miniature feet were not merely aesthetic. They were a symbol of social status. Only wealthy families could afford daughters incapable of labor. They were a guarantee of advantageous marriage. The smaller the feet, the higher the bride price. Recent research even suggests a hidden economic dimension. Women with bound feet excelled at embroidery and weaving, lucrative activities that could be done while seated. Foot binding may have been not only a prison, but also, paradoxically, a form of economic emancipation. In 2007, journalists met the last survivors of the practice in Yunnan. Zhou Guijin, 86, confided, "I cannot dance. I cannot walk properly. I regret it deeply. But at the time, if you did not bind your feet, no one would marry you." Her trembling voice carried the weight of centuries of feminine suffering, a suffering chosen, imposed, perpetuated by the women themselves, from mother to daughter, in an unbroken chain of beauty and pain. Let us now cross the ocean and plunge into the humid jungles of Mesoamerica. Here, the Maya developed a vision of beauty that literally turned the human body into a living work of art. For the Maya, the ideal of beauty was not what one was born with, it was what one created, sculpted, earned through suffering and transformation. Let us begin with the head. From birth, a baby's malleable skull was placed between 2 wooden boards. Day after day, pressure was maintained, forcing the bones to lengthen backward and upward. The goal? To resemble an ear of maize, their sacred plant, gift of the gods. Imagine those silhouettes in the temple shadows, oblong heads seeming to point toward the stars, receding foreheads defying natural proportions. To us, a deformity. To them, the mark of the divine. But the transformation did not stop there. In adolescence, boys and girls underwent another beauty ritual, tooth filing. With stone tools, they shaped the incisors into sharp points, into T-shapes, or hollowed small cavities. Into those cavities, they inlaid precious stones, jade green as the jungle, turquoise blue as the sky, obsidian black as night. Every smile became a constellation of gems. Every word released flashes of colored light. Modern archaeologists still marvel at the precision of these Maya dentists. A 1 millimeter error could pierce the pulp and cause a fatal infection. Yet, the majority of skulls found show work of stunning exactitude. These artists of pain mastered their craft with a perfection our own dentists struggled to equal. And then there was strabismus. The Maya found convergent eyes irresistibly beautiful.
Mothers dangled small resin balls between their babies' eyes, forcing them to squint until the ocular muscles fixed in that position. Why such extreme modifications? Anthropologists still debate. Some see a desire to distinguish humans from animals, affirming humanity through transformation. Others speak of divine mimicry. The Maya gods were often depicted with these very features. But perhaps the truth is simpler and more universal. Perhaps the Maya, like every people, simply sought to belong, to say, "Look, I am one of you. I have paid the price of beauty. I deserve my place among you." From Maya pyramids to the misty isles of Japan. Here, for more than 1,000 years, a perfect smile was a smile black as night. Ohagaru, literally black teeth, was far more than a fashion. It was a rite of passage, a declaration of identity, a shield against the world. The process was a daily ritual of patience and precision. Women, and some men, mixed iron filings with rice vinegar and tea. This concoction fermented for weeks in darkness, developing a, let us say, distinctive odor, compared by some to a rotten egg marinated in urine. Each morning, the dye was applied to the teeth with small brushes, layer after layer, day after day, until a deep, lacquer-like black was achieved. But why darken what nature made white? Explanations abound, each revealing a facet of the ancient Japanese soul. First, the symbolism of colors. In Japanese philosophy, black represented constancy, fidelity, quiet strength. A wife with blackened teeth proclaimed her eternal loyalty. A samurai adopting Ohagaru swore never to change master. Then aesthetics. In the dim light of traditional houses lit by candles, white teeth looked yellow, vulgar. Black teeth disappeared, letting red lips float like petals on a dark pond. Ohagaru also hid unsuspected practical virtues. The iron mixture protected against cavities, strengthened enamel, freshened breath. Women who practiced Ohagaru kept their teeth into old age, while their Western contemporaries lost them one by one. A particularly juicy urban legend circulated at the time. Western vampires were said to have been sighted in Japan, draining the blood of young virgins to create the black dye. Panicked, young girls rushed to darken their teeth, hoping to escape the foreign demon's fangs. The truth, of course, was more prosaic. Yet the rumor reveals the fascination and repulsion Ohagaru inspired, even among its practitioners. In 1870, Empress Shokin appeared in public with white teeth. In an instant, 1,000 years of tradition collapsed. Japanese women abandoned their brushes and concoctions, rushing toward this bright-toothed modernity. Today, only a few Kyoto geishas still practice Ohagaru during special ceremonies. Their black smile reminds us that beauty is never universal. It is the mirror of an era, a culture, a fleeting moment in time.
Let us leave Asia for Africa, that continent where the human body becomes canvas, where skin tells stories, where each scar is a word in the great book of identity. Scarification. The very word evokes pain, yet for millions of Africans over the centuries, these indelible marks were poems etched in flesh, identity cards no one could forge. Among the Dinka of Sudan, a boy becomes a man only after receiving his frontal marks, 6 parallel lines cut from temple to temple with a sharpened blade No anesthesia, no respite. Whoever cries out or shows pain will never be considered a man. Blood flows, mingling with red earth. The elders watch, judge. This is not gratuitous cruelty. It is a test, an initiation, a rebirth. The boy who lies down for the ceremony rises transformed, bearing on his face the irrefutable proof of his courage. Scarification is not solely a male affair. Among the Toposa of South Sudan, women wear intricate motifs over their entire bodies. Spirals on the breasts, stars on the belly, waves on the thighs. Each design has meaning, fertility, protection, clan belonging. The process is delicate art. First, an incision with a blade or thorn, then ash, charcoal, or sometimes irritating plant sap is rubbed into the wound. The irritation provokes keloids, those ridges of flesh that turn a simple cut into sculpted relief. Picture the scene. A young girl seated in semi-darkness, her skin gleaming with sweat. The scarification artist, often an older, respected woman, works with the concentration of a master calligrapher. Each cut must be perfect. Too deep risks infection, too shallow, and the mark will fade. The days that follow are crucial. The wounds must be kept open, irritated daily to ensure prominent scars. It is a beauty process stretching over weeks, sometimes months. Today, scarification is slowly disappearing, a casualty of modernization and health concerns. Governments forbid it, missionaries condemn it, the young reject it. Yet, in some remote villages, elders still carry those bodily ID cards. Their wrinkled skins tell stories no one knows how to read anymore. They are the last living books of a library closing its doors. Paradoxically, as Africa abandons traditional scarification, the West rediscovers it. Modern primitives are scarified in sterile studios, seeking in pain and bodily transformation what their ancestors have lost: a sense of belonging, an indelible mark of chosen identity. Let us stay in Africa, but travel to the arid lands of southern Ethiopia. In the Omo Valley, Mercy women wear clay discs in their lips that defy our very notion of the human face. The process begins in adolescence. An older woman, usually the mother or an aunt, pierces the girl's lower lip with a thorn. A small wooden peg is inserted to keep the hole open. Each day, a slightly larger peg replaces the previous one.
The lip stretches and stretches again. The pain of the first days yields to a constant feeling of heaviness, of perpetual tugging. After months, sometimes years, the lip can hold a terracotta plate 15 or even 20 centimeters across. But why? Theories abound, each more fascinating than the last. Some anthropologists speak of protection from slave traders. By disfiguring themselves voluntarily, Mercy women rendered themselves unsellable, preserving their freedom. But the Mercy dismiss this as insulting. For them, the lip plate is pure beauty. The larger it is, the more desirable the woman. A girl with a large plate may expect a bride price of 40 to 60 head of cattle. Without a plate, she is worth less than a heifer. Listen to Segu, a Mercy woman interviewed in 2018. The plate is not always in my lip. I take it out to eat, to sleep. But when I want to be beautiful, when I serve my husband's meal, when we have a ceremony, then I put it in. It is like your earrings, only more important. The comparison brings us back to a simple truth. Body modification is universal. We pierce our ears, tattoo our skin, reshape our noses. The difference is only one of degree, not of nature. Yet the modern world threatens this age-old tradition. The Ethiopian government urges the Mercy to abandon what it calls a backward practice. Tourists flock in, turning these women into human zoo attractions. Every photo snapped, every coin given, erodes the sacred meaning of the plate. Mercy girls are torn. Some refuse piercing, preferring school and the promise of a modern life. Others embrace the tradition but hollow it out, wearing the plate only for tourists and their money. Atai Iligadanye holds the world record with a plate 19.5 centimeters wide. Asked whether she is proud, she shrugs. This is what I am. This is what we are. When there are no more plates, there will be no more mercy. Her prophecy tolls like a knell. For what are we without our identity markers? What becomes of a people when its definition of beauty fades under external pressure?
Let us leave Africa for Renaissance Europe, Florence, Venice, Paris, cities that fancy themselves the cradle of rediscovered civilization. Here a new form of beauty emerged, one that likewise exacted its tribute of suffering. The forehead, that wide expanse of skin between eyebrows and hairline, became the obsession of noble ladies. The higher and broader it was, the more it testified to the intelligence and purity of its wearer. Poets sang its praises. Petrarch compared Laura's brow to polished ivory. Ariosto evoked plains of immaculate snow. Painters magnified it, creating proportions that defied natural anatomy. Yet nature had not endowed every woman with such expansive foreheads. No matter, if God had not provided, human ingenuity would compensate. Renaissance ladies armed themselves with minute tweezers and set about a Sisyphean task, plucking one by one the hairs along their frontal line. Hair after hair, day after day, they pushed their hairline back several centimeters. The pain? Excruciating. Imagine thousands of bee stings concentrated on a few centimeters of sensitive skin. And that was only the beginning. For those who found tweezing too slow or too painful, apothecaries proposed more radical solutions. Poultices of quicklime mixed with cat urine. Unguents of bat blood and rat droppings. Katerina Sforza's recipe promised to make hair fall, never to return. Egg white, mastic, lead, and bat blood. These mixtures burned the skin, caused blisters, left scars. But no matter, a marked forehead was better than a low one. Ladies concealed the damage under thick layers of ceruse white, lead-based makeup that slowly but surely poisoned them. And the eyebrows? Removed as well, plucked to the last hair. The ideal Renaissance face was a smooth oval, without asperity, without expression, a mask of inhuman perfection. Is this not the paradox of an era that prided itself on humanism? In seeking to imitate antique statues, Renaissance women dehumanized their faces. Wanting to appear pure as angels, they inflicted torments worthy of hell. Isabella d'Este, Marquessess of Mantua, pushed the transformation further still. Unsatisfied with her receding hairline, she bleached her hair Venetian blonde with a mixture of urine, honey, and ashes. She spent hours in the sun wearing a brimless hat so only her hair would whiten, while her face remained cadaverously pale. In her letters, Isabella complained of constant headaches, scalp burns, handfuls of hair falling out. Yet she persisted, for to be beautiful was to suffer, and to suffer for beauty proved nobility of both soul and blood. The supreme irony? Courtesans, women of lesser virtue,
adopted the same practices. Soon, it was impossible to distinguish a duchess from a luxury prostitute. All displayed the same bulging forehead, the same golden hair, the same chalky complexion. The high forehead fashion endured into the 16th century, leaving generations of women with ravaged scalps poisoned by lead and mercury. The price of Renaissance beauty? A slow yet elegant death.
From Italian Renaissance to Victorian England, the era changes, yet the obsession endures, to mold, constrain, transform the female body according to an impossible ideal. The corset. The very word conjures images of wasp waists, fainting women, broken ribs. But the reality is more intricate, more nuanced than legend. Imagine the morning ritual of a Victorian lady. Standing in her chemise, she grasps the bedpost while her maid pulls on the laces. The corset tightens, centimeter by centimeter. Breath grows short. Ribs protest. The waist diminishes. The objective? Achieving the ideal 17 inches, 43 centimeters around. For perspective, that is less than the circumference of a basketball. How is such an anatomical feat possible? The answer lies in the body's malleability, especially when transformation begins young. From the age of 3 or 4, little girls of good family were strapped into training corsets. Their floating ribs, still cartilaginous, bent under constant pressure. Their thoracic cage deformed, taking on a conical shape. Internal organs shifted, compressed, adapted. Doctors of the time sounded alarms. In 1908, Dr. O'Followell published striking radiographs. S-shaped spines, crushed livers, stomachs reduced to the size of a walnut. Lower ribs angled down at 45 degrees, creating that coveted hourglass silhouette. Consequences? Chronic breathing difficulty, digestive problems, frequent fainting, ironically considered proof of feminine delicacy. Dorsal muscles atrophied, unable to support the trunk without whalebone and steel. Yet beware of facile victimization. Many Victorian women fervently defended their corsets. For them, it was a symbol of respectability, self-control, moral superiority. A working woman without a corset was deemed of loose virtue. A lady without one? Unthinkable. The corset separated respectable women from others, the civilized from the savage. A testimony in the English Women's Domestic Magazine, 1867. "My corset is my armor. When I lace it each morning, I feel ready to face the world. Without it, I am soft, shapeless, vulgar. With it, I am a lady." This woman is no passive victim. She chooses her constraint, embraces it, claims it. The corset becomes second skin, identity. The most fascinating aspect? Men wore corsets too. Dandies, military officers, anyone desiring that inverted V silhouette donned support belts. Their suffering remains invisible, undocumented. Male pain had no place in the Victorian narrative. Around 1910, the corset began its decline. War loomed. Women entered factories. Impossible to rivet bolts with a 17-inch waist. The corset yielded to brassiere and girdle. Liberation? Perhaps. Or merely a subtler, more insidious constraint. Today, the corset returns, in high fashion, in fetishism, in celebrities' waist training. We have not finished reshaping our bodies, we have merely changed tools.
Our final stop brings us to the misty hills on the Burma-Thailand border. Here live the Padaung, known to the world as the giraffe women. The first brass coil is placed when a girl is 5, a simple ring, no heavier than a bracelet,
Yet it is the beginning of a lifelong process. Year after year, new rings are added. The spiral rises, grows heavier. In adulthood, a Padang woman may bear 20 kilograms of metal around her neck, the weight of a 5-year-old child, permanently on her shoulders. Contrary to popular belief, the neck does not truly lengthen. The clavicles collapse under the weight, the ribs compress. The illusion of a swan-like neck arises from the rest of the body being forced downward. Neck muscles atrophy, unable to support the head without the metal. Removing the coils becomes unthinkable. The head would slump, perhaps the neck would break. The rings are both adornment and prison, beauty and crutch. Nay Nahang, 52, explains, "We believe women were angels in a previous life. Hunters used rattan rings to capture them and bring them to earth. We wear these rings to remember our celestial nature." A lovely legend. Reality is more prosaic. The rings may once have protected against tiger bites, or rendered women unsellable to slave traders, or simply were considered beautiful by Padang standards. Today, the tradition survives but distorted. In northern Thailand's tourist villages, refugee Padang women pose for photos in exchange for a few baht. They are paid to remain authentic, forbidden to remove their coils on pain of expulsion. Girls who once refused the rings are now forced to wear them, not by tradition, but by economic necessity. The metal's weight is nothing compared with that of poverty. Tourists flock, fascinated by these giraffe women. They snap selfies, buy souvenirs, depart with their dose of exoticism. Few realize they are funding a human zoo, financing the cultural imprisonment of these women. Mu Pu, a young Padang, tried to flee to Chiang Mai for better pay. Police brought her back by force. Her crime? Wanting to live free, without rings, without tourists, without being a curiosity. The Padang coils confront us with a disturbing question. When does tradition become exploitation? When does cultural beauty become a spectacle for outsiders? Where do we draw the line between preservation and prison?
Here ends our journey. From Nile banks to Burmese mountains, we have crossed centuries and continents, witnessing humanity's infinite creativity in its quest for beauty. What have broken feet, blackened teeth, elongated skulls, weighted necks taught us? That beauty is no absolute truth inscribed in our genes. It is a construction, as fragile and changeable as the civilizations that create it. Every culture we visited believed it possessed the aesthetic truth. Egyptians with their protective kohl, Chinese with their golden lotuses, Maya with their gem-studded smiles. All were convinced their vision of beauty was the only valid, the only true one. And us? Are we so different? Look around. Botox injections, freezing faces, implants reshaping bodies, diets that starve, hours in gyms sculpting muscles that will never be used, fortunes spent on surgeries to resemble Instagram filters. Our methods are more hygienic, our tools more sophisticated, yet the quest is the same: to transform the body nature gave us into an impossible ideal dictated by society. In 1,000 years, what will our descendants think of our tattooed brows, inflated lips, liposuctioned bellies? Will they gaze upon us with the same perplexity we feel toward Renaissance-plucked foreheads? Surely. For the ultimate lesson of our voyage is this: beauty is ephemeral, but the desire for beauty is eternal. Each generation reinvents its canons, its tortures, its transformations. Each generation believes it has found the perfect formula. Each generation is mistaken.
What then shall we do with this knowledge? Abandon all aesthetic pursuit, accept our bodies as they are? Perhaps. Or perhaps simply recognize that our aesthetic choices are just that, choices, no more natural or sensible than those of our ancestors. The mercy woman stretching her lip, the Victorian tightening her corset, the modern injecting poison into her wrinkles, all seek the same thing: to belong, to be desired, to have value in their society. Beauty, in the end, is not in the eye of the beholder. It is in the soul of the one who transforms, in the longing to be more than nature bestowed, in the will to transcend mortal condition. Strange? Certainly. Mad? Perhaps. Human? Absolutely. Look in the mirror tonight. See beyond your face the faces of all who preceded you. We are all heirs to this long history of transformation, of pain, of impossible beauty. And tomorrow, inevitably, we will continue to transform ourselves. For to be human is never to be satisfied with what we are, always to reach toward what we might become. Strange beauty, indeed, but beauty nonetheless.